might hear that one. I want to play soccer aggressively. I want to be kind all the time. Okay? So if you can come up with an example of an outcome that you haven't really thought through very well yet, then that'll work better for the exercise. Okay. So A states the outcome. B applies the specific ongoing ecology checks to the outcome. So go through them one by one. Again, don't be exhaustive. You're not interested that much in the content. You're interested in the experience of noticing the incongruences as they come up. And so then just move on to the next one. And then C, you can just be meta person, so you can really observe what's happening. And then at the end you can have A again notice how they represent the initial outcome and how that representation becomes richer and more well-formed through the process of checking ecology. Any questions? Yes?
Why do we ask for to observe another person having this outcome? I mean, maybe this other person is different than me. Even if it worked for him or doesn't work, does it mean that it will work for me or not?
Not necessarily, but sometimes taking a different perspective like that can give me information that I didn't have before. You know, if I saw somebody else having this, to me, I could go, yeah, everything's perfect. But then I see somebody else having it and I go, well, this might be a problem for them. Because now I'm on the outside of it. So that's kind of what that's about, is being able to sort of get out of it enough to be able to see what might happen if somebody else had it. Like, what might my response be to them if they had that? Does that help? More questions about this? Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is, since we've been going a little over an hour now, I'm going to have you take a break, but I'd like you to get your groups first. Then take your 10-minute break, and then when we ring the bell, start your exercise. Okay? So, any discoveries from that you'd like to share, or questions came up for you during the process? Yes?
We had experience of psychology check, and it was a bit difficult to find out which areas he doesn't not confident in our life.
Which areas around confidence?
Yeah, I mean, he was saying, I want to be confident.
I want to be confident. General statement.
We are trying to find out. The moment I mentioned about that, how will you be confident when you drive a Harley Davidson?
Be confident doing what?
While driving the motorbike,
Driving a motorbike?
Harley Davidson. He was
not confident there. Don't want it there. Don't want it there. Don't want it there.
Good ecology check.
Yeah, a lot of discoveries can be made during this process. Somebody else said...
I thought I want to hike, because everybody's hiking.
Thought I want to hike. Everyone's hiking.
Then I discovered, no, I don't want to hike.
Yeah, not really.
I need fast phobia before.
I really don't want to hike until I get my fears handled. Yeah. So it can bring out, the objections that you have to. Why am I not hiking already? Or why haven't I explored it yet? Or What else?
Oops.
Yeah.
If you do it to someone who really, really wants to do something, like a teenager, and then he realizes that it's impossible, something happens to them. They lose self-esteem or...
So you're talking about, so a teenager has this desire
to be someone.
Be somebody, okay? Yeah. And then you do ecology with them and it dampens their...
There are too many problems.
Okay. So ecology on top of ecology, right? It's like the ecology of the system says, that I need to help them to see the reality of the situation. And at the same time, that can have an impact on their desire or their motivation. Yeah. So, sometimes it's important to let somebody discover that on their own, right? In terms of, teaching children, we can't teach them everything by saying everything to them, by telling them everything, right? We don't learn that way. Human beings learn through experience. There's a few things that we can learn by reading, but then it's just knowledge. It's mostly not experience, right? Most of what we know, we learned because we did it, because we found out about it. And so in some cases, you have to rely on that kind of learning and hold back, from maybe creating a belief that they can't do something. But really the purpose, though, of ecology, you have to keep this frame in mind. The real purpose is to get clarity around the outcome so that the outcome becomes more possible, not less possible. So if the ecology helps them to discover a possible roadblock, you want to make sure you address that so they can come out of it with a positive idea rather than holding it as the roadblock. Because holding it as the roadblock will definitely affect their motivation, right? So ecology isn't just to discover ecology, right? It's got a purpose to address it before we move on to the outcome, to trying to work with the outcome. So for Amal, is that right? The issue of I want to hike, there may be something that has to occur before that. So now the outcome has just changed. That outcome is not any different. It's just further in the future. So for that young person, they may see that their outcome is in the future, but they have something that they need to do first. Yeah? So it's like chunking. It's like taking a big outcome and just bringing it back. Like in business, I work with business people on objectives. What are your objectives? And how are your objectives in alignment with your mission and your vision? And then below objectives are your projects. What are the projects that will help you to accomplish your objectives? And below projects, what are the tasks that you need to do in order to accomplish those projects? And below that, what are the subtasks that are required for each of the tasks to be accomplished, for the projects, for the objectives, for the mission and vision? And then all the way down to what's the next action? What's the task that you can do right now? Right? That creates action, creates momentum. So sometimes for a young person, they don't have that principle in mind, that accomplishing these small things gets me this bigger thing, which gets me that, and so on. So dealing with ecology like that can really help somebody to have a more realistic approach to accomplishing something. Yeah.
With exaggeration, which is best to have positive or negative? Or
there's no best. There's no best.
to see the response.
With exaggeration, it's determining who they are, what they're like, trying one out, seeing what happens. I mean, to me, a lot of NLP is trying it out. You can start to make generalizations about people and about things after you've had lots of experience with trying things. Then you can start making some assumptions and some generalizations of your own. But if you start with generalizations and assumptions, then you can limit your experience with that person. So again, I don't like to say what's best, what's right, what's wrong. Just try. Do it. Find out what happens.
I try to do that in my job. Like I won't look at a student's file until I've met them and decide kind of what I think. And then I look at the file for additional information, but I try not to have a prejudged.
Try not to have a preconceived idea about somebody or... Exactly. Really important in helping professions. Because, if you treat anybody as an objective person, you're starting to put your projections and assumptions and ideas onto them, which can be limiting to the experience. In fact, it might even create so much disconnection between you and them that you can't get anywhere. So it's very important. That's why subjective is such an important word in NLP. Is that, there's a lot of generalizations we can make about people, but let's reserve them until we find out about that person, right? About how they do it. And that's why we talk so much about structure. What's the structure of that person's thinking? How do they do it? How do they do grief? How do they do motivation? How do they do love? How do they do whatever it is? What's their experience of it? Anything else? Do you want to bring up the one you had? Kind of felt answered. A little bit?
A little bit.
Say more.
Well, just if somebody, it's not just specifically for this exercise, but certain exercises we've been doing all along. Where I think maybe consciously someone really believes that no problem, but I kind of get a feeling like, I'm not sure myself in terms of...
So as the guide, you're seeing there may be a problem here. I'm kind of feeling there might be. But they're like gung-ho, 100% congruent, ready to go. And your question is then?
What to do, if anything.
Okay, what to do, if anything. So, to me, a lot of what I do as a guide is based on the amount of permission that I have with the individual that I'm working with. So, on day one, when they first walk in, I don't assume any permission, even though they've given me some by walking in, right? They've already decided to come here. But I still want to make sure that I earn it. That's what rapport is all about. Is what level of rapport I get gives me permission to stretch people, to challenge them on issues. If I challenge them without it, then I can be causing more problems than is necessary. So, to me, that's kind of a momentary kind of decision. Do I have enough permission to challenge them around this that's going on for them by bringing up what's coming up for me? Or do I feel like bringing that up is going to cause some conflict between the two of us, and maybe we end up not having a really positive outcome to work with? Does that make sense, son? So that's more of a relationship question, right, than a functional question. Do I do it or don't I do it? It's more, what level of connection have I made so that I can do it? Because I challenge people a lot in my practice, but I rarely do it in the beginning. I usually take my time to establish some credibility, some real connection there, and then I get lots of permission to stretch them in lots of different directions. I mean, I think you can see that in the world. Did you ever have an athletic coach that you really trusted? Did you ever have a teacher that you really valued and trusted? Did you have a spiritual teacher or a priest or a minister that you really trusted? These are the people that you're really willing to be open with, and they can challenge you more then because of that. So to really be in service of somebody, I think that's really important, to get that permission. Okay? I mean, obviously, in here, as a trainer, I have more permission that's granted to me just because I'm here than you have as colleagues with each other, right? So rapport is even more important when you're more at a equal footing with somebody. Not to say that it's not important for me, but I've been given some credibility. So, as you see in the world, a lot of business people use their credibility, or a teacher uses it. And you can tell when it's being used to manipulate and when it's being used to actually be constructive. And you can feel that difference. Okay. Anything else on ecology? So John Grinder said that there are 3 things necessary for change to occur. Now we all know that change occurs pretty naturally in our world without us doing anything. But this is really about intentional change. This is about sitting down with somebody to attempt to change an experience, change a behavior, change an emotion, change a belief. So he said rapport. And to me that means not only rapport between the two of us, but it also means that the individual has rapport with themselves. They have a rapport deep within themselves, and it's easy to see when somebody doesn't. Have all of you had that experience? Where you've seen somebody who you can sense an incongruency inside of them? You can hear it in their voice. When they're stating their outcome, it's not stated with congruency. There's something going on. So you got to help them establish the rapport with themselves, which is a lot of what we do in here, right? 6-step reframing, things like that are about finding that rapport with self. You need to have an outcome. You need to know where you're going, or otherwise you get some random change, right? You apply something and you don't have an outcome, you just see what happens. You can do that too.